The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
It's time now here on Kiwi is 10 minutes away from 8 o'clock here, and I'm filling in for Phil Goff this morning, who I believe is overseas at the moment. It's David Cunliffe. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning, how are you?
Good morning. He is overseas, isn't he?
He has been. I'm not quite sure when he gets back, but it's shortly.
Okay. Let's dig into a couple of issues of the day. First up, it looks like Andre the Giant, a.k.a. Cameron Slater, has been inside your internets and stealing your emails, David.
Well, I'm advised by our party head office that the gentleman concerned does appear to have been, playing with his fingers on the net, and looks like he has obtained some information from the Labour website. That does appear to be true. And
any concerns about what he might have got a hold of?
Well, I think fair to say the party's concerned that the breach has occurred, and firstly is taking legal advice about it. They've notified Mr Slater that the information that he's received is private information to those people who've signed up or donated on our site. I'm advised by them that it appears that a number of email addresses were downloaded from an IP address at National Party head office. So this is clearly a politically motivated act by the advice I've received. And I think New Zealanders ought to be concerned about those sort of games being played when people's private information is concerned. The vulnerability that led to that breach has been immediately closed down. Legal advice has been taken, and I'm awaiting further advice from party head office as to what the next steps are.
Of course, this is not new on the New Zealand political scene. Of course, Don Brash was the victim of stolen emails a number of years ago that led to the Hollow Men controversy.
Absolutely, and a police investigation followed there, although the source of the leak was never identified. Here it does appear that the source of the leak is clear, at least some sources are.
Okay, let's move on to the convention centre that Sky City is or does want to build, and it's going to cost them $350 million. Sounds like a good idea. A whole lot of jobs will be created from this.
Well, look, there's pretty good evidence that convention centres do create jobs. Whether they're worth the ticket depends on the city concerned and the way it's done. I'm only at the early stages of getting briefed on this one. Potentially it's an exciting plan for Auckland, but I think the thing that's concerning people here is that once again the government appears to be selling the law in order to achieve a commercial outcome. We saw it with the Hobbit, and now we're seeing the government being prepared perhaps to change the gambling laws in favour of Sky City as part of the negotiations around the build of this convention centre. Now, it's a two-step process. One, if the government wants to encourage a convention centre to be built, it's got lots of tools at its disposal, including subsidies and potentially some sort of joint project. It seems to me another step for the public to welcome gambling laws being changed generally for this entity just to get a building built. And I think that's a very interesting precedent. We need to look at that really carefully. It
would be interesting if the government dug its heels in and said, no, we're not going to change the laws, but we'll do these other things, and to see what Sky City would actually do.
Yes, well, we aren't party to that negotiation. We don't know how hard the government's pushed. But as I say, this isn't the first time the government's been prepared to sell the law in order to get a project advanced. And, of course, that makes it more vulnerable to negotiating parties because it looks like it's a pushover.
Of course, the recent copyright law changes as well could be also put into that basket as well.
Yeah.
Finally, let's look at this international relations that's going on with Fiji. There's been a bit of not so much biffo, but a bit of a standoff between Fiji and Tonga. You've also got the chap who wants to come here to New Zealand, runaway soldier Tavitu Mara. Should he have been allowed into New Zealand?
Well, there are established processes that go on between Ministers of Immigration and Foreign Affairs, and I think the decision would turn on an assessment of whether he's still an active part of the Fiji military. Quite clearly from the fact that he's a refugee from Fiji, it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that he's moved on in his life and he's not actively serving the Fiji military forces now. So I think there is a basis for allowing him into New Zealand. He's got information that may be of interest to New Zealand officials, and that'll be part of the calculation. He's obviously entered Australia already and Tonga already, so I doubt that Labour would make any kind of political issue of him coming to New Zealand. But the broader picture, of course, is that we've got unprecedented tension between two near South Pacific neighbours, Forum members, historical friends of New Zealand both. I think all New Zealanders would be very saddened by that. And the stories over the weekend of a naval standoff at the Minerva Reef between Tonga and Fiji, I'm sure all New Zealanders would hope that won't escalate to armed conflict between those two states.
I know this is getting a little bit foreign affairs heavy, but there is a lot of talk about China's influence in the Pacific. There's the recent situation in Timor-Leste where they're providing a lot of aid there and also military hardware. I mean, would it be surprising that there could be a Chinese influence going on?
Well, my understanding is that the People's Republic of China has a pretty active aid program around the South Pacific, as they do in other areas of the world. That they would see that. I'm sure it's part of their growing global footprint as they mature as a nation. In some cases, their aid budget is several times that of New Zealand in states that are in our backyard. So,
because you've got to wonder if Fiji wasn't going to lean on New Zealand and Australia, then it's going to look somewhere else, isn't it?
I think that's probably a pretty fair conclusion, and I think we'd be pretty interested to know more about the relationship between Fiji and China in that regard.
David Cunliffe, thanks very much for your time this morning.
Thanks very much, Wammo.
Cheers. David Cunliffe, representing the Labour Party there for us this morning.